The night had started so beautifully that Daniel almost believed life was turning around for him. After months of double shifts at the auto repair shop, skipping meals, and patching up his worn shoes instead of buying new ones, he finally had enough saved for one small promise: dinner at the new fancy restaurant his daughter Lily had seen on TV. It wasn't much, but for the first time since her mother passed, he wanted Lily to feel special again. She had dressed up in her little pink dress, the same one she'd worn on her last birthday, her hair tied up in ribbons. Daniel wore his best shirt, ironed twice to hide the years of fading. They stood in line outside the restaurant, both smiling, both holding dreams in their hands. But sometimes, fate doesn't warn you before it tests your heart. The laughter around them suddenly fell silent. At the entrance, a woman in a wheelchair was being stopped by the restaurant owner, a tall man in a black suit with eyes that held nothing but disdain. His voice cut through the air like a blade. "I don't care if you have a reservation. We don't allow wheelchairs in my restaurant." The crowd froze. The woman, elegant and calm despite her trembling lips, tried to explain something, but her words were drowned by the man's arrogance. "It's not good for the image. My guests don't want to see that." For a second, Daniel thought he misheard. But when he saw the pain in the woman's eyes, when he saw the people pretending not to notice, suddenly, the world felt colder than it ever had. If you believe kindness and courage still matter in this world, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, because stories like this remind us of the choices that define who we truly are. Daniel looked down at Lily. She was staring at the scene, her small hand clutching his tightly. "Daddy," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Why is he being mean to her? That question pierced deeper than any insult life had thrown his way. He could stay quiet, walk away, and keep his promise of a peaceful evening. Or he could step forward and risk ruining everything. The dinner, the night, the fragile hope he'd built for his daughter. But how could he teach his daughter to be kind if he wasn't brave enough to be kind himself? Taking a deep breath, Daniel stepped out of the line. His voice shook at first, but the truth behind it gave it strength. "Excuse me," he said, standing between the owner and the woman. "What you're doing isn't right." The owner turned, scoffing. "Mind your business, sir. I'm running a private establishment." But Daniel didn't back down. "And you're running it without humanity," he replied quietly. "If you can't treat people with respect, you don't deserve customers." The crowd began to whisper. Phones started recording, but Daniel didn't notice. He knelt down beside the woman, whose eyes glistened with disbelief. "Ma'am, would you like to join us?" he asked softly. She hesitated, clearly embarrassed, but he smiled. "I think this place doesn't deserve your presence anyway. There's a better restaurant across the street. My daughter and I would be honored if you joined us." The woman looked at him, her eyes filling with tears. She nodded gently. The crowd parted as Daniel helped wheel her away, Lily walking proudly beside them, holding her father's hand tighter than ever. Across the street, a small family diner welcomed them with warmth the fancy restaurant could never offer. The waiter didn't care about wheelchairs, he cared about smiles. They shared a meal that felt far richer than any expensive dish. The woman, whose name was Clara, told them she had been paralyzed in an accident 3 years earlier. Her friends had convinced her to go out tonight to rebuild her confidence. But being humiliated like that nearly broke her spirit again. Daniel listened quietly. He didn't see her as a disabled woman, just someone strong enough to face a cruel world with dignity. Lily drew a little heart on a napkin and slid it across the table to Clara. "For you," she said shyly. "You're brave." Clara's voice cracked when she thanked her. For the first time in years, she didn't feel pitied. She felt seen. The evening went on with laughter, stories, and an unexpected sense of family. Before leaving, Clara insisted on paying for their meal, but Daniel refused. "You're our guest," he said kindly. She smiled, tucking something into Lily's coat pocket before leaving. "Then let me thank you in my own way." When they got home, Lily found an envelope. Inside was a business card and a note. "You stood up for a stranger when no one else did. People like you remind the world that kindness still exists. Clara Westwood." Daniel froze. The name sounded familiar. He turned on his phone and searched. The results left him breathless. Clara Westwood was the founder of a massive tech company, a millionaire philanthropist known for her charity work. He stared at the photo online. It was her. The same woman they'd helped. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The next morning, the story had gone viral. Someone from the restaurant line had uploaded the video of Daniel standing up for Clara. Millions watched as this single dad who defended a disabled woman became a symbol of quiet heroism. The internet exploded with praise. News channels wanted interviews, and people from all over the world thanked him for doing what they wished they'd done. But Daniel wasn't looking for fame. He didn't even have time to process it all. He just wanted to make Lily's breakfast, fix the leaky sink, and get to work. That afternoon, a black car pulled up outside his small rented apartment. Clara stepped out, accompanied by her assistant. She looked radiant, confident, and deeply emotional. Daniel, stunned, invited her inside. She smiled as Lily ran to hug her. "I had to see you both," Clara said. "You changed something in me that night. I spent years building businesses, but I'd forgotten what true courage looks like. You reminded me." She handed Daniel an envelope. "I know you didn't help me for a reward, but please accept this. Consider it a small thank you." Inside was a check, enough to pay off his debts, buy a small home, and secure Lily's future. Daniel tried to protest, but Clara shook her head. "You gave me my dignity back. Let me give your daughter her dreams." Tears filled his eyes. He had faced so many struggles, losing his wife, raising Lily alone, working endless nights, and all along, he had feared he wasn't enough. But in that moment, he realized that being enough wasn't about money, status, or comfort. It was about doing what was right, even when it cost you something. Weeks later, Clara invited Daniel and Lily to a special event, the grand opening of a new restaurant she had built in the same city. When Daniel arrived, he was stunned to see the sign above the entrance, the Lily Rose, a place for everyone. Clara took the stage and spoke to the crowd. "A few weeks ago, I was reminded that kindness doesn't come from wealth, it comes from courage. This restaurant is dedicated to a father who showed the world that standing up for one person can change everything." As applause filled the air, Clara turned to Daniel and Lily, her eyes glistening. "You gave me a reason to believe in humanity again." Daniel hugged his daughter as she whispered, "Daddy, Mom would be proud of you." He smiled through his tears. "I hope so, sweetheart. I really hope so." The crowd cheered, cameras flashed, but all Daniel felt was peace. For the first time in years, the weight he carried seemed lighter. The man who once thought he had nothing left had given the world something priceless, an example of courage, compassion, and love. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe, because every act of kindness, no matter how small, has the power to change lives.